This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it, worked it, logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
It's Ham Radio.
Hey everyone, it's time for Ham Talk Live. It's episode number 306, New Tools and New Kits, recorded on Thursday, October 6th, 2022, live actually. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight we're joined by Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB. And last time here on the show, Bill Stearns, NE4RD, was here to talk about Jamboree on the air and Jamboree on the internet. So if you missed that show, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube, and you can catch the rebroadcast of this very program on WTWW. That's 5085 AM, Saturday afternoons at about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So we have some news just in and some things to talk about with Joe. So we'll be back to talk about those right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live.
His 2 cents is worth $37 in change. He once ran a marathon because it was on his way to Dayton. He works FT8 by ear. He once worked North Korea on every band in 1 minute using only a microwatt. He slowed down his code speed to work a de-expedition to 200 words a minute. He is, indeed, the most interesting ham in the world.
I don't always put on my own PL259s, but when I do, I prefer them from Tower Electronics. Stay resident, my friends.
Tower Electronics has all the adapters, cables, connectors, and yes, PL259s you need at a hamfest near you, or visit pl-259.com.
And the Tower Electronics Hamfest schedule will be at Crestview, Florida, October 15th. Then Chickasaw, Alabama, October 22nd. That's in North Mobile, Alabama. Then Lawrenceville, Georgia, better known as Stone Mountain, November 5th and 6th. And Montgomery, Alabama, November 11th and 12th. But you can visit them anytime at pl-259.com.
Ham Talk Live. The longer you listen, the later it gets.
And welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tonight, Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, joins us on the Orlando Amateur Radio Club and Hamcation Zoom line. Joe is from Lincoln, Nebraska, and is the kit building editor at CQ Magazine. And we'll talk about some of the Hamfests and conventions and club meetings he's going to here soon to do some kit building activities. He's also known for his picture shows at Hamvention and his Dr. Seuss hat at Dayton. So, Joe, welcome back to the show.
Well, good evening, and great to talk to you again, Neil. And there's been a lot of talk. Somebody's been asking me, well, why don't you bring your hat to this Hamfest or that Hamfest? And it might take some thinking since the tradition is over 20-some years old. And maybe it's time that it should appear at other places besides Dayton.
Start branching out a little bit, huh?
So we'll see about that.
It does make it easy to find you. I will say that it does.
Yes, it does.
It does help,
especially in the crowd, And Orlando, I wear my Mickey Mouse ears.
Yes.
I don't have anything special for Huntsville other than my red ball cap. So I don't know. We'll figure out something. Maybe the hat's going to become the symbol of all the Hamfests I go to. We'll see.
Well, it does make it easy to find you. That's for sure. Well, before we start, we do have some breaking news, so we'll roll the breaking news music here. So, the Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting is now open noon to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays, so you get an extra hour, although they usually opened up before noon to start with anyway, but now it's official. They're open noon to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays. So if that's more convenient for you to come visit, they are open, and they also are in the middle of a 5-part series with the Voice of America office in Washington, D.C. The next one is Thursday, October 20th. From 7 to 9 p.m. There's another one on November 17th, December 15th, and January 19th. And it's the VOA director, Yolanda Lopez, and the VOA East Europe chief, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Miroslava Gongdazi, I think. But these are distinguished journalists that report accurate news and stories from countries lacking a free press. And so they're talking about some Ukrainian stuff, actually. Lopez describes the challenge of managing an international news organization in multiple war zones. And Gongdazi shares highlights from her recent trip to Ukraine. She's an award-winning correspondent, awarded the Order of Princess Olga, 3rd class, which is a Ukrainian civil decoration bestowed on women of outstanding personal merit. So check that out, voamuseum.org, and you can check out this 5-part series. So Joe, if you have some time on an airplane going to some of these Hamfests, maybe you can catch one of those.
That sounds good. I'll have to download it into my little iPod and take it with me.
Yeah.
It's really good to be back on the show and actually be back in circulation. I did catch COVID at my high school reunion about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and been testing negative now, and so I'm back out into the real world again. And fortunately, it was pretty mild. And we're moving forward again. So, of course, while we're stuck home, we do things like order new tools.
Order stuff, yes.
That's right.
That does not stop the Amazon truck from coming to the house. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so let's talk about something. We've had more and more kits that have 1 or 2 surface mount parts in them. Sometimes a little more. And this is a little soldering station. It's digital, temperature controlled, but it has dual controls because it has both a temperature controlled soldering iron that has cool off and everything and full temperature precision, but it also has a heat gun. They call it a rework tool. And what that's used for is to heat up little spots on circuit boards that have surface mount parts. And so a rework obviously would be to remove one, but also it can be used with solder paste and putting parts on a circuit board as well. And so with a kit that I should mention here real quick, and that is the 4-state QRP surface mount dummy load kit. And what it is it's a circuit board, very, very simple, but it's got surface mount parts. Now, these aren't tiny surface mount parts. These are bigger than a lot of the resistors you're used to working with. And it's because they have to be powerful enough to act as a dummy load when hooked up the way they are. And so it has 4 LEDs on it, and so it will read your power at 0.5 watts, 1 watt, 2 watts, and 5 watts. So you can use that to tweak up a QRP kit and measure it. And of course, all powered by the RF. So no power supply is needed. And it's a nifty little kit. And there are the STL files linked on the 4-state QRP site as to where you can download the STL files to print the case for this kit if you want to put it in a case. Now, we would be remiss if I didn't give the model number of this soldering station that's also got the heat tool. And it's an LRT 8868. Once again, LRT 8868. And it says like $39.99. So I just say $40 for the thing. It's not that big or heavy or anything. I'm pretty sure it's got a switching supply in there, and it is grounded for ESD, and the heat gun puts out plenty of heat so that you can melt solder paste and put parts on a surface mount board that way. And the solder paste method is something that maybe sometime I'll go into more detail on another show, but it's a very, very effective way of mounting surface mount components at home, and it looks absolutely perfect. It looks just like it was done professionally. And
you showed it to me here. We're on Skype, and we have our video going here tonight, so I can see that. But it looks like your usual nice digital soldering station, and then the little wand on top that sticks out, and that's your heat gun. So, and it comes with like different tips with it, right? Yep.
Yeah, it's got 3 different size nozzles, so I can concentrate the heat on smaller areas if I want, so I don't melt other parts that are already on the board. And the heat tool, as well as the soldering iron, when you hang them up, they cool down. So it's, when you're talking about a solder station that has both tools and it's $40, you can't beat it. And it seems to be pretty reliable. And the soldering iron comes with like 4 or 5 extra tips, different sizes and shapes. And there's solder wick also. And it's a total rework kit. And very, very good for a beginning kit builder because it has both the tool for surface mount as well as a good sharp soldering iron. So,
and that's that's an Amazon find, right?
Yeah, that's on Amazon. And the kit that I use this with, the 4-state QRP surface mount dummy load, is at 4sqrp.com. And I think it's like $35 for the kit. I'd have to look it up, though. Might be less. But it's a very good kit. And like I said, if you have access to a 3D printer, you can make the case for the dummy load, although you don't really need it, as long as you're not putting it down on something metal.
Okay, well, sounds like a great tool and a great kit. So we've got a couple of things, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a bunch more kits and some of Joe's travels coming up. So we'll take a look at all of that when we come back right after this word from ICOM America, right here on Ham Talk Live. Keep your competitive contesting edge with ICOM. Our high-powered base stations cut through pile-ups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Contests from the comfort of your own home or remotely with the RSBA One app. Heard it, worked it, logged it. The IC7851 gives you a new window into the RF world and is HF excellence unparalleled. With faster processors, high input gain, high display resolution, and a cleaner signal, it is truly the pinnacle of HF perfection. It has dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, Spectrum waterfall display, and an SD card slot. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out faint signals in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 by ICOM is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that has changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has 110 dB RMDR, dual Digicel, dual receiver, and RF direct sampling. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver radio brings direct sampling to the UHF VHF weak signal world. It's loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy. Faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. With a 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectroscope and waterfall display, dual watch operation, full duplex in satellite mode, and smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. The innovative transceiver digitizes RF before various receiver stages, reducing inherent noise in different IF stages. The IC7300 changed the way entry-level HF is designed. It has 15 discrete bandpass filters, the large color touchscreen, Spectrum scope, SD card slot, and RF direct sampling. The real HF fun starts here. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
You're listening to Ham Talk Live, the most popular podcast with the words ham, talk, and live in the title. Here's your host, Neil Rapp.
And welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Be sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we'll be back here with Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, to talk about some more kits here in just a moment. But first, it's time for the N9 GSU Joke of the Week.
Now it's time for the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week, the part of the show where Rick tells us a ham radio joke. The Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week is brought to you by QRM Labs. Now, here's Rick Garrett in 9 GSU with today's Ham Talk Live Joke of the Week.
I decided to take my friend, who had never been out of the big city, camping for an overnight Parks on the Air activation. Well, the mosquitoes were the worst I have ever seen them. We kept lathering on bug repellent, and still they came. Finally, we saw lightning bugs. My buddy says, I give up. Now they've got flashlights.
This has been the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett in 9 GSU. Tune in again next week for another joke from Rick.
Oh, boy. Those mosquitoes and those flashlights. Were those the flashlight kits you gave them, Joe? Or
No, but you know what?
No?
There's a real good one out there I'll have to talk about sometime.
All right. Well, Rick, thanks for the joke. We'll have another one next time here, and we'll get to talking to Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, the kit building editor at CQ Magazine, and we'll talk about some new kits here. But Joe, you're making a trip someplace you've never been before.
Yeah, that's right.
Tomorrow.
Actually, tomorrow I am leaving for Cheyenne, Wyoming. Now you say, well, this is the next state over. Well, from here, it's 6.5 hours at 75 miles an hour speed limit. So it is definitely west of Nebraska, not very far, but 6.5 hours west. And like I said, I've never been there before, so that's going to be a new one. It is the Rocky Mountain Division ARRL Convention. And I'll be giving my kit building seminar there. And then Might be visiting Sedalia the weekend after, not sure yet. And then in November, I'm going to be in Enid, Oklahoma, and I'm going to be doing a live kit build there. And we'll have room for, I think, up to 20 kit builders. And we'll be building the FM radio kit, same one that we just recently did at the combined Hudson Division and New England Division convention in the Boston area. I did a little over a month ago. And that was a lot of fun. And we had 28 builders walk out with working radios. And it had a surface mount part. So we got to demonstrate solder paste. And so that's a fun one that I like to do as a group kit build. But first off, let's talk about
then you're off to Georgia, right?
Yeah, that's right. A week after that, I'm flying down to the Hotlanta area. I will be in Alpharetta, and I will be at Ham Jam, which is a week after the one in Stone Mountain. And it's more of an educational one, and I will be giving my kit building seminar there and showing off a few different kits. So it'll be fun to get down to Georgia. Hopefully be a little warmer than it is here, because tomorrow they're talking about 30s in the morning. So it's going to be chilly.
It's hitting here too as well. But Ham Jam's one that's been on my list. So I'm one of these days I'll have to get down there for that one, because they do a lot of cool stuff with youth and education, and I do a little bit of that stuff every once in a while, so I need to go check it out. Well, you've got some more new kits to tell us about, so now's the time. The temperature's dropping, so that means you spend more time indoors and build some more kits, right?
Yep, and also reading CQ magazine, which is coming out the last 7 months, I think, 7 or 8 months. It's been coming out right at the beginning of the month. So make sure you update or subscribe to CQ magazine, both digital and in print. What we're looking at here is they call it the KX Mini Paddle. And what it is it's put out by QRPbuilder.com. Now, if you haven't heard that name, it is a new one, but it's done by one of the guys that's worked previously with QRPguys.com. And it's strictly made out of PC board material that's all soldered together. And it has a paddle, and they have it iambic, and they have it dual, and they have single lever paddle. And what it does is it bolts to the front of an Elecraft KX2 or KX3. But if you don't have one of those radios, or even if you do and you want to use this paddle on another rig, you can get this adapter for, I think it's like $10 or $15 extra. And you can either solder a cable or plug the cable into the back to that, and it mounts onto there. And the whole thing shouldn't take you more than an hour to put together. It is a little tedious at times, getting it exactly straight and so forth, but it pays off in the end because it's very, very strong, and it's a great little paddle. And like I said, I can bolt it into the front of my KX2, and I have an instant paddle, or I can plug it into this base and plug it into any QRP radio I have. But it's a simple iambic paddle. There is no electronics or keyer or anything. It's designed for the rigs that already have the keyer in it. And the whole thing is not very expensive. I think it's like $25 if you get the full options on it. Another kit, let me see here, and let you take a little peek at that. What this is it's a power supply, and it is a dual bench top type power supply. Now, what we mean by that is it has two basic power supplies in one box, and they are separate. They're run off the same transformer, but each one has separate electronics, and they are adjustable from about 5 volts up to about 16 volts. And They put out about 1.5 amps on each side. And so that way, if you're powering, a lot of kits don't run more than 1 amp or so from the power supply. And you can power two different things that run on two different voltages with this very stable, highly regulated and filtered power supply. And so I've already used it testing some kits and so forth. And it's really useful. It has two separate digital voltage displays and two separate switches to turn on and off each side of it, and a master power switch. And it's got the power cord in the case and everything. And I think it's going to sell in the range of $70 or $75. And it's going to be available by the Joplin Amateur Radio Club. And they just had their Hamfest last weekend in Joplin, Missouri. And I did not get to go, but they tell me that anytime now this fall or winter, they will be putting this kit out and making it available for purchase. And it's a good deal for a benchtop power supply with digital displays. Something very, very, very useful for the shack. Now,
my one trip to Joplin, Missouri, I remember, was a 10-way stop.
I think
we're going down the street, and all of a sudden we get to a 10-way stop. That was the craziest intersection I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know where in town that is, but I think I've seen it. But the Joplin Club also still puts out the antenna launcher, which is made out of PVC materials. Oh, yeah. And you got to buy your own fishing rod line and so forth. Mm-hmm. And it launches a projectile that pulls the fishing line like through the tree or whatever, and you can put up antennas with that. And they still make those. And I remember reviewing it, and they were just surprised how many orders they got. And it does work. I still have it in my garage. Kind of a non-kit project I'm working on right now. This is a control pad. And what this is for is to access the 8 memories for voice or CW or RTTY or PSK in the 7610, the ICOM 7610. And the button is the mute button that mutes everything. And I 3D printed designed and 3D printed the holder that holds all the buttons, and I'm working on the base of that now, and I'm starting to wire the buttons, and that will allow me to just tap a button and trigger off a automated sequence, either like I said on RTTY or CW or sideband, like for sweepstakes. So it'll call CQ for you. Instead of touching the screen all day or something on the radio, you can just tap the button on the keypad.
Ah, very cool.
And so that is one of my latest projects. And let's see what else. And this piece happens to hold up a circuit board in the kit that we're going to talk about that is probably one of the most advanced kits out there. And it's called the T41. And the T41 is a all-mode SDR transceiver. And I'm pretty sure it's most of the HF bands. And it uses a 5-inch touchscreen to control it, as well as a whole row of buttons. And I mean, it's got a lot of buttons on it. That's a whole circuit board full of buttons. And the case is made partly 3D printed and partly PC board. And this kit is surface mount, pre-mounted, and the rest of the parts that you will mount. And there's a lot of kits that do that, like the QDX and several others from QRP Labs that have the surface mount parts already done for you, and then you're just expected to do the through-hole parts. And the T41 is like that, but there's several boards. I think there's 7 or 8 different boards in the kit I could be wrong there. I've been getting boxes in the mail the last 2 weeks, and I'm anxious to get started putting it together. And I'm doing a beta build right now. And once we've cleared it through the beta process and we can start getting parts, the 4-state QRP group is going to start distributing the T41. So if you look up T-41 SDR online, you're going to find out that there's even a book about this thing. It looks kind of complicated when you look inside. It's going to have several ribbon cables, some SMA type Teflon coax jumpers in there and things like that. But that means that each board can be separated out and upgraded as things go on. They might come out with, a new improved RF deck or a new touch screen thing or board or whatever. And there's at least a couple of megs or more of spare memory on the CPU that you can even take the open source firmware and you might be able to write routines to add more features to it. And so this is really an incredible software-defined radio, a experimenter's SDR, more than anything. And so it's not going to be tiny and compact like your true SDX or things like that. It's going to be more a larger thing that you can work with and do updates to and things like that. So something like your true SDX or something, which is real small, no, it's not going to be that way, but it's going to put out a lot more power. I think it's going to be about 10 to 20 watts. And it's going to have a pretty full-featured screen like you'd expect on an SDR. And so the T41, like I said, look up the T-41 SDR transceiver online, and you'll see a lot of stuff written about this. It was designed by a couple of guys who have shared it with the QRP community, and the 4-state QRP group is working diligently to get that put together in kit form so that all you need to do is put together the through-hole parts and you won't have to worry about the surface mount. But you're going to have a lot of jumper cables to deal with. But that's part of the kit and makes it modular so that we can update a piece at a time.
Yeah, that's always cool because, if you come out with a new one, then you got to start all over again. So that's a good way to go with all the modular stuff. So very good. Well, Joe, you got anything else for us here tonight?
Well, I enjoy seeing people at group kit builds, and I'm already booking my calendar up for next year, and we'll come out and we can do group kit builds or seminars. And it doesn't have to be a ham fest necessarily. We can arrange for club meetings, and because I'm mostly retired, I can even do them during the week. Even if I have to fly somewhere, I can go in the middle of the week as well. So the calendar is filling up, and let's see if we can get some more clubs involved in kit building and get you started putting some solder to circuit board and making your own radios.
Well, that's some cool stuff. And there's a lot of kits out there from the very beginner to this big SDR that you're talking about. I know that I was looking at one down at Huntsville that had some humongous solder traces on there for the kids to kind of get started doing some soldering, and I'm going to be taking a look at some of those from Mad Labs, I think it was, and just getting some soldering experience for them. So all kinds of stuff, and Joe knows all of them. So thanks, Joe, for being here and filling us in on the new one. So, and have a good trip to Cheyenne, and if you run into AJ or RJ, sorry, not AJ, RJ, tell him I said hello, and enjoy your trip.
I sure will. And thank you very much for your wonderful program.
All right. Well, that is a wrap for this edition of Ham Talk Live. Thanks to my guest, Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening. And invite you back next time for a list of all of our upcoming guests. Go to hamtalklive.com. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.
For 73, to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the log. Yeah, 73, to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the log. It's hard to believe that you're anti-OD, 'cause you sound just like a local up